Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. So in this video I am going to go through all of the Blu-rays that I've picked up for the month of June 2024. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So first up, I've just got a couple of TV shows that I've picked up this month. The first one is a DVD box set, and I'd actually never heard of this show before, but once I found out about it, I read a lot of positive things about it. And I know some of my friends have spoken very highly of this one, so I thought I'd give it a go, and that is Shitz Creek. This is the complete series. So yeah, this is a Canadian sitcom starring Eugene Levy. It also stars his son Daniel Levy, and I think they co-created the show together. You've also got Catherine O'Hara in this one, who is probably best known for playing Kevin's mum in the Home Alone films. But yeah, it's basically about this family. They're like a wealthy family. But they lose their fortune at the beginning of the series, and they end up having to go living in this town called Shitz Creek. And it's a town that they purchased, and they completely forgot that they purchased it. And yeah, it's basically just about them having to adjust to their new lives. So it's sort of like a riches to rags sort of story. I've not watched a whole lot of it yet. I've only just finished the first season. I think there's about 5 or 6 seasons. But yeah, overall, I've enjoyed it. It's just a very, very easygoing sitcom. You know, the episodes are only about 20 minutes long. I think there's about 13 episodes a season. Yeah, it's pretty funny in places, and I'm enjoying it. But yeah, I'm hoping to enjoy a whole lot more of it. So yeah, that is Shitz Creek. So next up, we have another TV series. Now, this is one that I have been meaning to get, but I wasn't actively looking for it on the day I got it. But I was in CEX and I was paying for something else. But whilst I was there, I saw this behind the counter, and it was the cheapest I'd ever seen it. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get it. And it is Star Trek Enterprise, the complete series on Blu-ray. So yeah, for those who are not really familiar with Star Trek, this is the prequel series that takes place before the original. It takes place about 100 years before it, and it's kind of about, you know, the birth of the Federation and the first sort of explorations into space and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really like this series. It's not the most popular of Star Trek shows, but for me, I think it's very underrated, and it's actually my second favourite out of all of them. I just really like the cast in this one. I like the tone. I like the storytelling. I like some of the plot lines that we get in this one. I've been rewatching this, and I'm just about started season 3, which is probably my favourite season out of the 4. But yeah, maybe if you've seen Star Trek and you want to explore more, I would definitely recommend this one because I think it's very underrated. But yeah, that is Star Trek Enterprise, the complete series on Blu-ray. Right, so on to the movie pickups now, and the first one we have here is a French import. I think this is possibly the only way to get this movie on Blu-ray, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it is China Girl. So yeah, this is a film directed by Abel Ferrara. It came out sort of in the mid-80s, I think about 1987, and it's basically about these two gangs in New York. You've got an Italian family, you've got a Chinese family, and they're both based at war with each other. But the film's about these two characters. One is the son of the Italian family, and the other is the daughter of the Chinese family. And these two characters basically fall in love despite everything that's going on between the two families. And yeah, it's basically like a modern day Romeo and Juliet with a bit of West Side Story thrown in there. Yeah, just imagine Romeo and Juliet with that sort of gangster Godfather type of background. But yeah, I thought this was a fantastic film. Very 80s. It's got a great soundtrack to it. It's got some good violence, good cast, and some good twists and turns in the story. Yeah, very underrated film, and probably one of my favourites from Abel Ferrara. But yeah, that is China Girl. Next up, we have a horror movie, one that I'd never actually seen before, despite being a massive horror fan. But I've heard a lot of people talk about this one, and it is Demon Knight, the Tales from the Crypt spin-off movie from the mid-90s. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Had a good mix of horror and comedy and gore. got a really good cast in it. Like no one like massively famous, but you know, there's a lot of familiar faces in this movie. And yeah, I just had a good time with it. I think Tales from the Crypt was one of those TV shows that I can remember seeing bits of when I was a kid. I can certainly remember a lot of the scenes with the Crypt Keeper, but yeah, it's not really something I've ever really watched. And yeah, like I said, this was a first time watch for me, but really enjoyed it. And yeah, if you're a horror fan, you like that sort of horror comedy type of film, you know, with like the Evil Dead, this is definitely of the same sort of ilk. So yeah, that is Demon Knight. Next up, we have a movie that is on the 101 Films Black Label range. Now, I've got most of the Black Label range, but there's one or two recent ones that I haven't picked up yet, but this is one of the earliest ones that went out of print a long time ago. And ever since, I've been meaning to pick it up, but I've always been waiting to find it for a good price. And I was on the CEX app not too long ago, and I just randomly decided to search for this movie. And it did come up, and it said it was in my local CEX, but it didn't specify whether it was the standard edition or the limited edition, and the price was £8. And I thought, you know what, I'll just go down and have a look, because the CEX wasn't too far away from where I live. And lo and behold, when I got there, it was the limited edition, and yeah, I just grabbed it straight away and bought it. And that is Roller Coaster. So yeah, this is number 3 on the Black Label range. So yeah, a very, very early one from them. And yeah, I've seen this one going for crazy money on eBay. I think at one point I saw it going for about £70. And I was just not willing to pay that kind of price for it. So to get it at £8 in pretty good condition with the booklet and everything, yeah, I couldn't really ask for more. The movie itself, I really like. It's basically about this domestic terrorist who is holding the country for ransom, and he's setting off bombs in theme parks. In particular, the opening sequence of the movie, he blows up this roller coaster whilst people are on it. And it's just a thrilling sequence. And then from there on, it's all about the police trying to catch him. And he always seems to be one step ahead of them. And he's just eluding the authorities. It definitely has that sort of 1970s disaster movie kind of feel to it. But yeah, I had a great time with it. And yeah, just so happy to get it in good condition for a very, very good price. So yeah, that is Roller Coaster on Blu-ray. Next up, we have another release from 101 on their Black Label range, this one being a bit more recent, and it is the Lawnmower Man collection. So this is the collection of Lawnmower Man 1 and Lawnmower Man 2. Yeah, I can remember seeing the first Lawnmower Man when I was very, very young, but my memory of it was just, you know, I couldn't really remember anything about it. And I'd never even seen the second one, but I always heard how bad it was. But I wanted to give these movies, well, I wanted to give the first one another go. And I think what intrigued me most about this was the fact that the Blu-ray for the first movie includes the director's cut. And I think the director's cut is about 40 minutes longer. So there's a substantial amount more footage in the director's cut. And yeah, I had a good time revisiting it. Very, very interesting film. I know it's meant to be based off Stephen King's short story, but it has nothing to do with the Stephen King short story, and I know Stephen King ended up suing the producers of the film for making a movie that had nothing to do with his short story, and they were basically just using his name to sell the movie. But I still enjoyed it nonetheless. You've got a good cast with Jeff Fahey and Pierce Brosnan in there. And even the second movie, which I'd heard terrible things about, and I even remember when I watched the trailer, I thought it looked really bad. But I actually didn't mind it. It wasn't amazing, but it was still kind of fun, and I'd argue that it probably had better cinematography and more action than the first one, but I would probably say the first one is more of a thriller. But yeah, overall, I had a decent time with these films. Nice release from 101 Films, get a lot of special features, nice artwork. So yeah, can't really complain. So yeah, that is the Lawnmower Man collection. Next up, we have a new release from Arrow Video, and yeah, this was a movie I'd never heard of when they announced it, but after reading some reviews about it and people saying it was something of a hidden gem, I can definitely say that this movie was a hidden gem when I watched it, and it is Mute Witness. So yeah, this is a Russian film, but saying that, it's mostly English language, but it's set in Russia, and it's about this girl who is mute. She's unable to speak. She works on a film set, and one day while she's there, she witnesses what she thinks is a scene for a movie being filmed, but it turns out that it's actually a real life murder that's being filmed for a snuff movie. She witnesses it, she manages to escape, but the people who've committed the murder go after her. And yeah, I thought this was a cracking little thriller. I think the first half of it in particular was a masterclass in suspense. Like the actual sequence where she witnesses the murder and then she kind of has to elude the murderers. That whole sequence is nail-biting stuff. The second half, it goes in a slightly different direction. It goes a bit comedic in places and a bit silly, but still real good fun nonetheless. You've even got a small cameo from Alec Guinness in this movie, which I believe was filmed 10 years prior to the movie being released. But yeah, I had a great time with this one. If you fancy something a bit different, some sort of nail-biting tension, definitely check it out. That is Mute Witness. Next up, we have a new release, this one from 88 Films, and it is Fist of Legend on 4K. So yeah, this is a Hong Kong martial arts film starring Jet Li. It's basically like a loose remake of Fist of Fury starring Bruce Lee. And yeah, Jet Li plays this student of a martial arts school, and the master of the martial arts school dies under mysterious circumstances. And it seems as though the rival Japanese martial arts school might have something to do with it. So it kind of turns into a bit of a revenge movie. But yeah, it's got some great fight sequences, and I had a great time with this one. I'm not the biggest fan of Jet Li. I feel like with a lot of films from him that I've been watching, they haven't really impressed me all that much. But this one is probably my favourite of all of his films that I've watched. I had a great time with this one. The fight sequence at the end in particular is just absolutely brilliant, and yeah, just great stuff. And this is a lovely release from 88 Films. I mean, you can just tell right away the glossy slipcover there. You get reversible artwork, you get a poster which has this artwork on it, lots of special features. Yeah, so fantastic release and a fantastic movie. So yeah, that is Fist of Legend on 4K. And keeping with the martial arts trend, we have another new release, this one from Eureka, and it is the Valiant ones on 4K. So yeah, this is a martial arts film from the 1970s. It has a very familiar sort of story, basically about the Chinese being invaded by these Japanese pirates, and the Chinese basically have to fight back against them. The story's as simple as that, basically. But I thought this was a great film. It's got some great cinematography in it, some great fight scenes, looks really good on 4K. And yeah, just another fantastic release from Eureka. They're really knocking it out the park with these martial arts Hong Kong releases, as are 88 Films. But yeah, that is the Valiant ones on 4K. Right, so next up we have another 4K Blu-ray, and this is one that I think was released in the last few months. But what's interesting about this is I had no real desire to pick this up. I was quite happy to stick with my old Blu-ray of it. But what had happened is, a few weeks ago, I decided I wanted to rewatch this film. So I put on my old Blu-ray. I got about halfway through the film, about an hour into the movie, and all of a sudden the disc crashed. So I gave the disc a clean, I tried it again, it still didn't work. I took the disc out again, I noticed there was a huge scratch on it. So I just knew at that point that the rest of the film wasn't going to play. And I was kind of annoyed because, you know, I'd gotten halfway through the film, I had my heart set on watching this film, and I couldn't see it through, and it wasn't even on any streaming services, so I could just finish it off that way. So I decided, instead of replacing the Blu-ray, I thought I'll just get the recent 4K release that we got. And the movie is The Man in the Iron Mask. So yeah, this is the sort of the continuation story of the Three Musketeers that takes place many years later when they're a lot older. It's all about the reign of King Louis XVI, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a horrible, mean-spirited, spoilt king. Nobody likes him. He's sending France into decline. And the film's all about the Three Musketeers trying to overthrow him and replace him with his identical twin brother, who is essentially the man in the Iron Mask. And yeah, it always surprises me that this movie is not as talked about as much as it is. You've got Leonardo DiCaprio in there, you've got Jeremy Irons, John Malkovich, you've got Gabriel Byrne, you've got Gerard Depardieu. A fantastic cast and a great performance from Leonardo DiCaprio playing sort of the dual role of the king and the man in the Iron Mask. And it's just a great historical epic that has a great combination of action, drama, romance, and a bit of comedy in there. And yeah, it's a film I've always enjoyed. I remember seeing it as a kid, and I remember seeing it off the back of Leonardo DiCaprio doing Titanic. And yeah, I just think it's a really enjoyable film, and it just doesn't really seem to get talked about that much. Looks great on 4K. I'm happy to say that I was able to watch the whole film without any problems. So yeah, this will do nicely to replace that old Blu-ray that is now broken, essentially. So yeah, that is The Man in the Iron Mask on 4K. Right, so on to my last pickup for June, and this is another new release, this one being from Scream Factory. It's a 4K release, and it is RoboCop 2. So this is, of course, a sequel to the original RoboCop, which I consider to be probably one of the best action sci-fi films ever made. It's safe to say that this film and RoboCop 3 are nowhere near the quality of the first film, but I still enjoy this film nonetheless, and RoboCop 3 for that matter as well, and I'm hoping Scream Factory do a release of that one as well. But yeah, I still enjoy this movie. I think what this film lacks in compared to the original is it just lacks that emotional story. You feel like the character of RoboCop goes through a personal journey in that one, whereas in this one, he's basically just RoboCop. He doesn't have any sort of human story to him. But what this one makes up for is the action. It has some brilliant sequences. I actually really enjoy the use of stop motion in this one. It's got some good comedic elements to it. It retains that sort of that piss take on, commercialism, and if anything, it probably ramps it up even more in this film. And yeah, like I said, it's just got some fantastic sequences, especially in that second half. So yeah, like I said, have a huge soft spot for it. It's nowhere near the quality of the first film, but I still enjoy it nonetheless, and it looks absolutely astounding on 4K. So if you enjoy RoboCop 2, definitely consider picking it up on 4K. So yeah, that is RoboCop 2. So there you go, guys. Those are all of my pickups for June 2024. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen any of these movies. Have you picked up any of these particular releases? I would love to hear your thoughts. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you all again on the next one. So take care, guys.